What's going on, everybody? This is episode 83 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to everybody that's been supporting us thus far. For those who haven't, seen any of our episodes, go check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. But before we start, we got to give a shout out to our new sponsor, the Player's Choice. It's the new Instagram for basketball players. If you guys want to, check it out, download it on the App Store. You must have an iPhone to have it. But yeah, without further ado, we have a very, very, very special guest on here today. He's been a college coach for umpteen years. I'm not going to say how many years. He's coached at Fordham University, Iona College, and is now the head coach at Bryant University. Those of you guys in the New York City metro area know him very well. Today, I give you Mr. Jared Grasso. Jared, thank you for coming on to share your testimonial.
Dave, I appreciate you having me.
Indeed. So let's start this off. So, what's Jared Grasso's coaching philosophy?
I mean, for me, it's kind of twofold. Being in the business and being the son of a coach, I've been around the game since I was 3 years old. I tell people all the time, my dad gave me a basketball when I was 3 years old, and I still haven't let go of it. So growing up around the game and being in the gym and being around my father and the guys he worked with and worked for, I was blessed to be around so many great coaches and so many great people and leaders. So from a young age, I was able to see guys mentor young men and teach them right from wrong. And the pieces of coaching, not just the basketball pieces, but having the opportunity to change a young man's life and having the opportunity to give someone, the chance through basketball to learn discipline and hard work and all the things they're going to need to be successful for the rest of their lives. So for me, first and foremost, that's what it's been about for me. Having the opportunity to work with young men and hopefully give them the skills they need to be successful for the rest of their lives and have relationships with them for the rest of their lives. When it comes to the basketball piece,
All right. So continue.
Guys with a chip on their shoulder with something to prove and guys who love the game. And I've been blessed to, throughout my style career, those are the guys who end up leading to wins and leading to success and championships. And so for me, it's about bringing in the right kind of guys. Hopefully been able to mold those guys into the type of teams that we've been able to build over the years.
All right, cool. So let's start from the very beginning. You were born and raised in Syosset, Long Island. When did basketball, or you already answered that question, talk about what it was like, growing up in Long Island, and what was the basketball culture like out there?
Yep. Again, for me, my dad was, when I was growing up, my dad was a high school coach on Long Island. So I lived in the gym, going to see his teams practice and, I could name players, high school players that I followed those guys like they were my heroes. So I remember going to, Hempstead against Malvern and North Babylon against Brentwood. And I remember all the great high school players from when I was a little kid growing up, and guys on the old Long Island team were the guys I looked up to. So I was blessed to be around the game from a young age. And, I thought Long Island basketball and New York City basketball was basketball in New York, to me, was the best basketball in the country. My dad would take me to Catholic League games in the city. My dad would take me to Gaucho Gym and Gaucho Round Ball and IS8. So I grew up around seeing all those guys and seeing all those players. And then as I grew as a player, I was blessed enough to play for some of the better AAU teams in the area, for Rebel Boyd, for Gary Charles with the Panthers, for Mickey Walker. So I was able to see and be around such a great basketball culture in New York City then, when I think New York City basketball at that point was the best in the nation, like I said. So for me, the blessing of having a father as a coach who I was in different gyms every single day. And that's the way I grew up. That's all I knew. And it was a blessing for me to be around, again, the game so much. I was just thrown into the game. I was in locker rooms, my dad's team after games and sessions, and so I was just entrenched in the culture of basketball, and it's kind of in my blood now, and it's something that's never left.
I actually just looked up your father's stats. He was putting up some really good numbers at Hofstra in the 60s.
Yeah, my dad played basketball and football at Hofstra, actually. Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So my dad went to junior college out in Texas for 2 years, ended up going to Hofstra, playing basketball there, and before his senior year, he was very friendly with some football players who were telling him that how basketball players were soft and he wasn't tough enough to play football. So that fall, my dad said, all right, if you guys are tough enough to play football, I sure as hell can. Goes out for the football team, ends up making the football team that fall. Their starting wide receiver gets hurt the first game. My dad ends up starting a wide receiver, broke their reception record that year, ended up playing with the Jets, picked him up as a free agent. He was with the Jets practice squad. So it's just a funny story. He never played organized football in his life, played 1 year of football in college, and ended up with the Jets. So it's kind of a wild story. So his senior year, he played both basketball and football at Hofstra. He had a great career there.
Where did he coach at?
My dad coached at Jericho High School. Then he coached at Adelphi University. He was an assistant with the Knicks, did some scouting for the Knicks with Rick Pitino.
Wow.
And then ended up coming back and coached at Long Island Lutheran High School at Bryant Carey, Huntington High School at Bryant Carey. So he did at every level, the high school level, the college level, the professional level. So for me, it was great. I got to see it from every side. You know, when I was young, he was a high school coach. When I got to high school, I was playing at St. Anthony's. He was coaching at Adelphi. I got to see him the year he was with the Knicks, with Mark Jackson and Patrick Ewing and Kiki Vandeweghe, Rod Strickland. And so I've been able to kind of see it and see him do it at every level, which was great growing up.
Wow. So were you a ball boy growing up?
I did a little bit with the Knicks actually that year. A couple of games, I was a ball boy with the Knicks, which was great. His high school games, I was always the ball boy for his high school games. So I did it all. You know, I was cleaning sweat off the floor during games and practices for him. I did a little bit of everything.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a nice experience, man.
Absolutely.
So growing up, what were some of the tournaments that you loved playing in?
I mean, IS-8 was the best. You know, walking into IS-8 with Dave Edwards on the mic, and, you know, it was nothing better. The atmosphere in IS-8, you know, playing against, obviously, great players, great teams. For me, that was my favorite tournament I ever played in. Every time you walked into IS-8, you didn't know who was going to show up. You didn't know who you were going to play against. You know, someone could be flying in from California to play. Someone could be flying in from the Midwest to play. Great tournament. And then obviously all the talent in the metropolitan area. I mean, I remember my last IS-8 loss was against Ron Artest. I think he had about 50 against us. But that was my last IS-8 loss was against Ron Artest.
Wow. Those are some good memories.
Yeah.
So what were some good tournaments in Long Island at that time?
You know, Long Island didn't have a ton of stuff. There were a couple summer leagues that we played in Rockville Center, you know, Elmcore. Lindenhurst High School actually used to have a really good summer league with the best teams in Suffolk County and the Catholic League teams. But most of the stuff I did was in the city. I was playing with the Panthers a lot, playing with Rebels. So most of the stuff we did was in the city.
Shout outs to Rebel and Gary Charles, two pioneers in the basketball community.
Two of the best to ever do it.
So talk about your time at the legendary St. Anthony's High School of Long Island.
Yep. Had a great experience there. You know, 3 years I played for Rich Roach, he came back. I was actually going to go to St. Dominic's High School. So my plan was I was going to St. Dominic's, was going to play for Tom Tarantino. Myself and Sean Kennedy were going to be the backcourt together. Rich Roach at the time was a graduate assistant at Villanova. Came back, took the job at St. Anthony's, kind of recruited me to come there with him. Made the decision to go there, was blessed enough to start as a freshman on the varsity team. You know, my first game was against Holy Cross with Wooly Dersh. My second game was against Christ the King with Lamar Odom, Speedy Claxton, Eric Barkley, Kamal McQueen. So, you know, I was thrown right to the fire. I remember literally my second high school game matched up with Speedy and Eric Barkley. So played against obviously some great talent, some great teams. We were able to build that program up at St. Anthony's. You know, my junior year, remember we beat that Christ the King team with Eric Barkley. It was Eric Barkley, Kamal McQueen, Osei Millar. We beat those guys. They were number 18 in the country. And I remember that kind of putting us on the map at St. Anthony's. Had a real good junior year. And then my senior year ended up beat St. Dominic's in the semifinals, who was kind of our rival who we couldn't beat. You know, had some great games against them, but couldn't get over the hump. You know, they had Jason Hernandez, Jimmy Moran. Then it was Sean Kennedy my senior year. We beat them in the semifinals, ended up matched up with the St. Mary's team coached by Tim Cluse, who ended up being my boss, mentor, and like a big brother to me. So we played Tim 1998, we played St. Mary's in the championship, and St. Mary's beat us, winning their first Long Island championship. And then Tim went on from there to win, I think it was 6 or 7 Catholic League championships and having the number 1 ranked high school team in the country. But it's funny, he ended my my high school career as a player.
Wow.
And then when I didn't retain the job at Fordham, he restarted my coaching career, bringing me in as associate head coach at Iona. So it's amazing how the game works, and the connections you can make can end up helping you down the line.
Shout outs to the St. Anthony graduating class of 1998. So how was your recruitment in high school?
So going into the summer after my junior year, I went to ABCD camp, went to Vegas. So at ABCD camp, I had a really good week. I mean, I left there, Stanford, SMU, Maryland. I mean, I was getting phone calls from some high-level schools. Stanford set up an official visit. So I had a really good week at ABCD camp. If I was smart, I would have shut it down and not gone to Vegas. My body was beat up. I was exhausted, but of course you're a bowler. You want to go play. So 2 days later, got on a plane, flew out to Vegas to play with Mickey Walker's All-Stars out in Vegas. Zach Marbury, I think we had probably 25 Division I players between 2 teams. And I was about as bad as you could be out in Vegas. I mean, I couldn't make a shot. I really didn't play well. And my recruitment really fell off from there. A lot of those higher level schools that were recruiting me dropped off. I came back from Vegas, and, there were still a few schools still involved. Marist was involved, Cornell, Quinnipiac. But Quinnipiac had been recruiting me since my first phone call my junior year was from Joe DeSantis. He recruited me all the way through, regardless of what schools had gotten involved. He was the one guy who was always there. And that fall, I ended up taking a visit to Quinnipiac, fell in love with the place, thought I could go in and play right away and have an impact, and ended up committing to Quinnipiac on my official visit.
Wow.
Joe put the screws to me, like the great recruiter he was, and I was ready to get it done, and it ended up being the best decision I ever made.
So talk about your 4 years at Quinnipiac. And the crazy thing is, back then, they weren't in the MAAC. They were in the very conference that you're coaching in now, the NEC. What was the NEC like during those years?
So my first year there was Quinnipiac's first year of Division I. So when I went in, we were ranked number 315 in the country out of 315 Division I teams. My first game as a freshman, I was the starting point guard. We played against UConn, number 1 in the country. Khalid El-Amin, Jake Voskuhl, Rip Hamilton. I remember I was matched up with Khalid El-Amin in the first play. He caught the ball, jab stepped. I was in front of him. He took a dribble. I'm sitting down guarding him. Now, I'm thinking, all right, I can guard this dude. He put a forearm in my chest. I was leaning against the basket support as he went in and shot a layup, an and one. Gamble goes crazy. I said, all right, this is a little different. There's a little different level basketball. But 4 years later, I had a great experience at Quinnipiac. Started every game for 4 years. 4 years later, we took a program that had won 4 years at the Division II level, and 4 years later, we're on national TV playing in a conference championship on ESPN against Central Connecticut State in a game that, to this day, people say was the best environment in NEC history. The place was sold out. I remember walking into the arena when we got off the bus 2 hours before the game. Place already sold out. I was the first one out there shooting. The whole place is chanting, Grasso sucks. It was at Central Connecticut. It was just an unbelievable environment to play a basketball game. And to this day, I mean, I've coached at Kansas. I've coached in NCAA tournaments. I've coached in big-time arenas, sellout crowds. To this day, best basketball environment I've ever been in.
That game.
We ended up losing by 3 points. But it's still something that I still think about that game often because of how unbelievable an environment was. And it was always a motivation for me to be able to get a head coaching job in the NEC because I always felt like there was something missing the way my career ended. And now I'm here at Bryant, hopefully with the opportunity to build a program that could get back to an NEC championship and have a chance to finish the job that I tried to do as a player in college.
Well, shout outs to – oh, you guys didn't win that game against Central.
No, we lost by 3 points. Central ended up winning the tournament, and that was the end of my career. I had some herniated discs in my back, ended up having to have back surgery right after my season was done, and that's how my coaching career kind of began. I had planned to go play professionally in Italy, but after my surgery, I was done and was blessed enough to be able to get into coaching from there.
So How was it playing against UConn, and how many times did you guys play against them when you were in college?
We played them 3 times. So my first year, they beat us pretty good. They gave us a 40-piece. I mean, they were #1 in the country. It was our first game at the Division I level, and we actually played hard and played fairly well. They were just much better than us. My last 2 years, we played them close. I think my sophomore year, I had 23. It was a 6-point game with 5 minutes left. We were right there. My senior year, I had a 3-pointer to start the game, which scored my 1,000th point against them. Second or third game my senior year was matched up with Ben Gordon, and we kind of went at it. We went back and forth, and not to say I was as good a player as Ben Gordon, but that night I gave him all he could handle. I think he had his hands full a little bit, and we battled. I maybe had 19 points, and it was a single-digit game going into the last 5 minutes. We played them well. The last 2 times I played them, we had them on the ropes a little bit. So it's a blessing to be able to play in, against one of the best programs in the country, storied program with national championships. And I was blessed to have an opportunity to play against those guys and have a little bit of success against those guys.
So which one was a better environment, Gamble or the XL Center, which was then known as the Hartford Civic Center?
I think Gamble was. At that point, I think Gamble was. It was loud. There was an energy there. And obviously they were really good, especially their first year. They were #1 in the country when we played them. And, it was the first game of the year. So that place was bumping, and it was a great place to play, great environment.
Well, shout outs to the Quinnipiac University graduating class of 2002. So when did you decide that you wanted to go into coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I knew throughout my career there was a point, and especially after I injured my back, where I didn't think I was going to have a chance to play professionally. My dream was always to play in the NBA or have a chance to play overseas. After my senior season, I did sign with an agent and was looking to try and play professionally in Italy. Myself and Bill Romano, who I had graduated, both were working on getting Italian passports so we could play in Italy. I ended up having my back surgery. Surgery didn't work as well as I had hoped, and at that point, I kind of knew that I wasn't in position to go start a professional career. And I always knew when my playing career was done, I wanted to get into coaching. So Tom Pecora was the coach at Hofstra at the time. My dad had given Tom his first coaching job as the freshman coach at Jericho High School many years ago. So Tom repaid the favor, giving me my first opportunity as a graduate assistant at Hofstra. So I was blessed to be able to, place on Long Island where my dad had played back home. So my first coaching job was as a graduate assistant with TP at Hofstra. And then from there, I was able to kind of spread my wings and bounced around a little bit, and was blessed to work for some great head coaches and kind of get my feet under me and learn the business and kind of grow as an assistant coach.
And then after that year in Hofstra, you went to Hartford. Talk about Hartford.
I was blessed. Larry Harrison gave me the opportunity to, as a 23-year-old, to be a full-time assistant coach on the road recruiting, and gave me a lot of responsibility. And it's funny, someone asked me today what it was like when working at Hartford. I mean, it was great. We were getting in at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, staying in the office till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And for me, this is my first year coaching. I have a head coach who lives in the office. I spent all those hours with him just trying to learn. For me, I was still wet behind the ears trying to figure it out, but I had a passion for it. I knew I wanted to be a recruiter and wanted to learn as much as I could about recruiting and player development and all those things. And Larry took me under his wing, kind of showed me the ropes, taught me the recruiting game. And, I was blessed to have someone who put that much time into me and helping cultivate and develop me as a coach. So those 2 years to me really helped me learn what it took, both in terms of recruiting and the whole. He gave me a taste of everything. I was doing scheduling and travel and all these different things, running his basketball camp. And I'm blessed that he gave me the opportunity to touch so many pieces of the program, because I tell assistant coaches all the time, you want to be able to do anything. You want to learn how to do the video, the travel, the scheduling. So wherever you are, anything your boss needs you to do, you're able to do. And those 2 years with Larry really gave me the opportunity to do that.
Then for 1 year, you went on to Quinnipiac.
Yeah, I went back to the alma mater. Joe DeSantis had some movement on his staff. And, Joe was someone who obviously had a great career with and a great relationship with. It was, kind of a mentor to me. And he had an opening on his staff, asked me to come back with him. And it was an opportunity to go back to my alma mater, a place that was very special to me. And, I still had that unfinished goal of trying to win a championship at Quinnipiac at that point, not having finished the job as a player. So I went back to Quinnipiac for a year, had a great year there with Joe before moving on to Fordham.
Ah, the plot thickens. So Fordham University. Talk about the 4 years in Rose Hill.
Yep. I mean, our first year there we had a really good group coming back. Marcus Stout, Bryant Dunstan, Sebastian Green. I mean, we had some good players, good group. Ended up winning 18 games, which was the best year at Fordham in the last 25 years, I want to say. I think we finished fourth in the Atlantic 10, which was the highest finish Fordham's had in the last 25 years in the A10. It was a great group, really high character, hardworking guys, played really, really hard for Dereck. And it was just a fun group to be around. You know, the following year, we returned that whole group, and the wheels fell off a little bit for whatever reason. Chemistry wasn't as good. We had some struggles, only won 12 games, and then kind of had to rebuild. We graduated 5, 6 seniors, and for those next 2 years was kind of a rebuilding process for us.
And then, the year after, so that fourth and final year, Dereck Whittenburg gets fired, and they let you hold down the interim coaching job. When you got that position, like, how did you feel?
You know, it was hard. Dereck gave me an opportunity at Fordham, and I'm to this day grateful that he gave me the opportunity to be an assistant coach in the Atlantic 10 and work for someone who won a national championship as a player, had a ton of success as a coach. So it was a hard thing between, someone who gave you an opportunity loses his job, but you have players there who you care about. Some guys you recruited and guys who've been in the program, and you kind of owe it to them to try and see through what you had started with them. So I was given the interim title for that year. Unfortunately, our point guard, Gio Fontan, decided he was going to transfer about 2 days before that all went down, where I had taken over as the interim head coach. So we kind of had a depleted roster. We had a kid eligible. Gio ended up leaving. So I think we were playing with 8 or 9 scholarship guys. And, those kids played really hard. We weren't very talented. We were undermanned. We didn't have a full roster, but those kids played really hard. For me, it was a huge learning experience moving over those 18 inches and having to coach my own team. I was still recruiting. I think we got commitments from 5 players who ended up all, Sean Armand ended up coming to Iona with me, was one of the best players in MAAC history. Jayon James ended up coming to Iona with me. He finished his career at Louisiana Monroe, where he was an all-league player. Majoke ended up going to junior college, went to Ball State, averaged a double-double at Ball State. Danny Lawhorn ended up at Washington State. And Amadou Sidibe ended up going to Fairfield and was one of their all-time leading rebounders. So as an interim coach, I still recruited like a head coach, and they gave me the freedom to do so. And we brought in what I thought was going to be a really good recruiting class. And I was able to learn all those other things, the fundraising and the alumni and all the things that, as an assistant coach, some of the things you're not doing, I learned in those 3 months. So although our record was not what we would like it to have been, kids continued to compete really hard. Chris Gaston ended up winning Rookie of the Year. We had some younger talent returning, I thought, and with the class we had coming in, I thought we had a chance to be pretty competitive moving forward. The powers that be decided to move in another direction, and at that point for me it was, okay, what's the next move? It was a great opportunity for me to learn for 3 months, and it's probably the most important 3 months in my career, because I knew when I got that opportunity again what I would do different. The things that I still needed to learn. And I realized there were things I still needed to learn in order to be a really successful head coach. And thankfully, after that time took place, I was hired by Tim Cluse at Iona, where I was able to kind of still develop and add some of the things I needed to as a coach to really be prepared for that step of running my own program.
Now, the 8 years at Iona College, first and foremost, before we get to the good stuff, talk about how the job came about.
It was I want to say Thursday night. I was involved with a couple things. I'd interviewed for a Division II head coaching job. I was actually supposed to fly somewhere to interview for another Division I job out in Texas on, I want to say, Saturday. Thursday night, I'm laying on my couch. I just taken some NyQuil, was watching some TV, wasn't feeling that well, about to go to sleep, and 10:30 at night, my phone rings with a 516 number. I'd literally seen on social media 15 minutes earlier that Tim Cluse was hired at Iona. Phone rings, I answer it. It's Tim Cluse. said, "What are you doing right now?" I thought he meant like, what was I doing with my career? I said, I hadn't talked to Tim, although I've known him for a long time and our families know each other. My father was close with Tim's brother. I hadn't seen or spoken to Tim in years. He said, "What are you doing right now?" I said, I was let go at Fordham, kind of figuring out what the next step is. He said, "No, what are you doing right this second?" So I'm laying on my couch. He said, "I'd like for you to come to my office and meet with me." I drove up to Iona. We ended up meeting for a half hour. He kind of talked about his philosophy and his vision for the program. I knew I wanted to go somewhere where we could have success and win. We would come off a couple losing seasons at Fordham, and I wanted to be around winning. By the end of our conversation, Tim said, "This job is yours if you want it. Take some time, think about it." I said, "I don't need to think about it. I'm ready to take the job." He said, "Take some time, take a night or two, sleep on it, talk to your people." I said, "Coach, I'm ready to go." And I was there at 7:00 the next morning, ready to work and kind of hit the ground with my feet running.
Wow. Now, during your time there, you guys were very successful. 5 NCAA tournaments, 2 NIT appearances, 5 MAAC championships. And part of that is because of your skillful recruiting. What goes into I know every coach has their ways, their methods to recruiting, but what's Jared Grasso's skill to recruiting?
At the end of the day, it's all about relationships, about relationship with coaches, about relationship with kids. It's about letting them know that you care about them and you're going to treat them right. And you're going to hold them to a standard and you're going to be demanding, but you're also going to treat them right. And you're going to love them when they need a hug and you're going to kick them in the butt when they need a kick in the butt, but you're going to hold them to a standard that's going to make them successful. So for me, it's always about being honest, being upfront. I recruit guys. I tell them what to expect. I'm very honest from jump because I don't want them coming here and saying, "I said this, this, and this," and that's not the case. Right. So I tell guys, you're going to have to work really hard. These are the standards you're going to be held to. You're probably going to work harder than you ever have in your life. If you don't love playing basketball, I might not be the right coach for you.
Yeah.
And especially working for Tim Cluse, who I think we're cut from the same cloth. If you don't love playing, you're not a good fit for us. We want guys who want to be in the gym, want to get better, and have a passion and love for the game of basketball. But if you love to play and you want to be great and you're willing to work at it, no one's going to work harder than we will or I will in terms of putting time in to make sure you're successful. So for me, at the end of the day, it's about relationships. And I think if you recruit a player from a certain coach or a certain program and they see you do right by their kids and you treat their kids right, and that doesn't mean playing time or minutes. It means being honest. It means making sure they get their degree. It means making sure they learn the habits they need to be successful in life. Mm-hmm. I think that's something I've tried to really do for my career is hold up to my end of the bargain of how I'm going to treat guys and what they need and what they deserve in order to have a chance to be successful. So I think recruiting is a relationship business. Of course, there's the evaluation piece and finding guys who fit your system and fit your style. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to build a trust with players, build a trust with their AAU coaches, their high school coaches, and make those guys understand that you're going to hold their young man, their son, their daughter to a certain standard. And if they want to be a part of that and want to really work, we've had this many pros, won this many championships. I've been blessed enough to recruit some really good players, but a lot of it was because of the habits that they had and the habits they learned and the work ethic that they had to continue improving and continue developing as players in order to become the successful players they were when it was all said and done.
Yeah. Another reason why you guys were so successful, because you tapped the JUCO market. It seemed like every year Iona was loaded with transfers and JUCO guys. Like, how was it? Like, how essential was the JUCO ranks for you guys?
For me, it's no stone unturned. I want to find the best, toughest, hardest playing players I can. And we're going to look at junior college kids. We're going to look at high school kids, prep school kids, 4-year transfers, grad transfers. Right now for me, it's always been about no stone unturned. Early on at Iona, when Tim brought me in, he said, I want older guys. I want guys with some experience and I want to bring in some older guys. And we had success doing it. At that point, everyone wasn't going the transfer route. Everyone weren't recruiting transfers. So we were able to get the Mike Lovers and Dave Lowrys and Momo Jones and guys that if they were available now, Duke and Kentucky and North Carolina and all the blue blood programs would be recruiting them. We're able to get those guys to come to Iona. And I think, they all had a great experience. Momo was second in the country in scoring, went to 2 NCAA tournaments. Mike Glover went to an NCAA tournament. Jordan Washington was supposed to go to Arizona State, comes to Iona, goes to 2 NCAA tournaments. So because of the success they saw, they started recruiting each other. It's kind of been the same thing we've tried to build here at Bryant, is guys seeing the group in front of them have success and saying they've had a great experience, and then they recruit each other. And that's what it becomes about. So, at Iona, we had 4 or 5 kids from Newark, Dave Lowry, Kelvin Amayo, Isaiah Williams. They kind of recruited each other. Scott Machado helped recruit that Mike Glover, who helped recruit Momo Jones. And that's what it is. When you're really good, your best recruiters are your players, because they can be honest about what the experience is like. They can be honest about, this is how coach does things. This is how we run our program. These are the pros. These are the cons. So you build off of that. You build off players have a good experience. Then they tell the next guy. And I think that's something we're able to have great success with.
And I loved all those Iona teams. I kind of miss the old Iona gym. It was beautiful. Not that the gym right now isn't beautiful, but I kind of miss the old one. Because the new gym and what it looks like, it looks kind of like tight. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't really sit. You know what I'm saying? Like the camera people
Absolutely.
can't really sit in front. Like it was more space with the old one. But I mean, Maroon Madness, that was one of the things that I loved about Iona. the cheering section.
Yeah, listen, we built kind of a tradition, and we would get great turnouts. And, obviously, if you were ever there for one of like the Manhattan Iona games, I mean, there was nothing like it. Those atmosphere for those, either at our place or at Draddy, we had 4 or 5 years where us in Manhattan were battling, and Steve was doing a terrific job at Manhattan. And those games were unbelievable. The environment for those games, and the bagpipes before the game, and the Maroon Maniacs, and all. It was, I mean, that's what college basketball is about, being able to have those kind of environments. And in that old gym, it was what it was, with wooden bleachers, but we were packing the place. The place was loud. It was hot. It was, to me, that's what games are supposed to be like. That's what the old New York City Catholic games used to be like. You'd walk into Christ the King, and it was standing room only, and it was tight and loud. And to me, those are great environments. That's what I grew up, the kind of games I grew up going to, and being able to coach in those type of games at Iona was special, because to me, that's what it's about. Those are the kind of environments your kids want to play in. Those are the kind of games kids, playing those Manhattan games or Monmouth games on ESPN, great crowds. You feel people breathing down your neck behind you. Like, that's what it's all about to me.
I can't even lie. I always considered going to an Iona game a treat, jumping on that 6 train to get to Pelham Bay Park, jumping on the 45 to get to the school, or taking the Metro North and jumping on the 45, or just walking the 20 minutes, even in the snow, just to get to Iona. Those were some good years.
Yep.
It was
a great run. It was a lot of fun.
Of all the teams that you coached there during those 8 seasons, which was your favorite?
That's a hard one. The most talented was my second year with Scott Machado, Momo Jones, Sean Armand, Jamel Jenkins, Kyle Smythe, and then Mike Glover, Taj Ridley. I mean, that was a really good team. We got in that large bid to the NCAA tournament that year. We were up 25 in the first half against BYU. I'd rather not talk about the second half, but if we could end that game at halftime, we would have been feeling really good. I think my favorite team was AJ English's senior year. AJ had never gone to an NCAA tournament. He was injured. He had broken his wrist the first year we went. So for him, he had never played in an NCAA tournament. And that was the year we had that battle with Monmouth. They beat us at our place. We had that little scuffle after the game. We went and beat them at their place. There was all that buzz about Monmouth, and they had a terrific year. King did a phenomenal job.
Was this 2016?
What's that?
Was this 2016?
That was 2016. Yep.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that game with the scuffle. That was crazy.
I mean, those games were high energy and competitive, and so then we ended up playing them in the championship. And just the look in our guys' eyes, I've watched that One Shining Moment video multiple times. If you see the look in Isaiah Williams and AJ English's eyes during that game, like, they refused to lose. Yeah. Like, it was just a different look. And I pointed it out to people, like, they were so locked in, and they had this look on their face like, we're not losing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a tie game with 40 seconds left. AJ backed Justin Robinson down and hit a turnaround 1-foot jumper to put us up 2. And then they had the ball, 3-point game, 10 seconds left. AJ had to steal the winner, threw the ball up in the air. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. Just the emotion and I know all we went through that year to get to that point. And to see AJ English go from a kid who was the most competitive kid I've ever been around, but sometimes hard-headed and tough to coach. And he went from that to being this unbelievable leader. Sat in the front of the room, the video room, every video session, talking guys through stuff because he wanted to win so badly. He wanted to go to the NCAA tournament so bad. And he put us on his back and led us there. And again, it was just a really special thing because we had some bumps in the road during that year. The scuffle with Monmouth. Jordan Washington was suspended for a couple games. Jordan Washington, one of his friends passed away the morning we were playing Monmouth in the championship. So there were just a lot of bumps along the road with that group, but we found a way to come together late. And I attribute it to those guys' toughness and to our culture of we just kept punching the clock every day. When things were bad, we just kept fighting and punching the clock and punching the clock. And in the biggest moment we had, our guys stepped up to the plate and found a way to win.
Man, Jordan Washington was a good dude. Shout out to Jordan Washington. He was always hilarious too.
Yep.
Also a comedian.
Kid. He's got a good heart and one of the toughest, hardest playing guys. You know, he's one of those guys you want him in the foxhole with you because when the lights go on, he's going to compete and going to play hard.
And AJ English, man, I love, out of all the guys I've seen play at Iona, he never disappointed. That's all I'm gonna say. He never.
Assassin. I'll tell you what, my 8 years there, he probably made more game-winning shots than anybody combined, and it's because of his workout. I mean, he was a gym rat. That kid every night from 10 to midnight was in the gym getting shots up, and those guys who work like that and treat the game like that, like professionals, are usually the guys who make big shots and make big plays, and that kid made more big shots or big plays than anyone I've ever coached in my career.
Yeah, man. So 2018 comes. When did the Bryant opportunity come through?
You know, throughout that spring, Tim O'Shea had decided he was going to retire at the end of the year. So a couple people reached out to me who I knew had some connection, asking if it was something I would be interested in. And, you know, I was at the point in my career, my father had just passed away that previous November. And, you know, I wouldn't have left New York. When my father was sick, I wouldn't have left New York. You know, I wanted to be around him. I was helping as one of his caretakers, and I just needed to be around my dad. I wasn't going to leave New York at that point. My father ended up passing away that previous November, and at that point, I knew that if the right opportunity opened up for a head coaching position, I was ready to move where I needed to at that point. So the season ended, and I kind of started conversations with Bryant. There was another job that opened up as well at the same time. So I was kind of involved with 2 jobs at the same time. I came up, interviewed for the Bryant job. Then I got flown out to Louisiana to interview for another head coaching job. And, you know, right when I stepped on campus at Bryant, it kind of felt right to me. It felt like a place, the campus, the vibe, the family atmosphere. I knew it was a place that it was a job that I wanted, and I knew it was a place I thought I could be successful. Ended up being offered another head coaching job the day before I was supposed to interview with Bryant the second time. I ended up flying back. They brought me in for a second interview, offered me the job that night, and the rest was history.
Was it hard leaving Iona?
It was. You know, Iona was a special place to me. You know, Tim Cluse, you know, I get emotional when I talk about it. He's, outside of my father, probably the most influential person in my life. He's like a big brother to me. And it really has nothing to do with basketball. Obviously, we have some great basketball memories together, but he's just done a lot of things for me in my life and to help me grow as a person and a husband and a father and kind of help me realize what's really important in life. And as much as basketball is, and we have a passion for basketball, you know, helped me with my priorities. And he did a lot of things to really help me grow. So that piece, in addition to the fact that the players I recruited there that I was very close to, that it was hard to leave. You know, when I recruited those guys, they were hoping that I would be there for 4 years and see them through in their careers. But this was a great opportunity here at Bryant. You know, a place that came off some struggles, but a place where I felt we could be successful. beautiful campus, great academics, and a place that kind of our leadership, Ron Makeley was the president at the time, and Bill Smith, who was our athletic director, kind of we were all on the same page with what our vision for this program was. And now our president, Ross Cattell, another basketball guy who, it's a place where you can go and get a great education and a beautiful campus, but can also have basketball success. And I think we're starting to show that.
Awesome. So talk about, the first season with Bryant.
I was kind of bringing in my own culture and style of play, and we were trying to build something. The year before I got here, we had won 3 games, and it was going to be a rebuild, so to speak. And Tim O'Shea had done a really good job of taking the program from Division II to Division I and had some successful years. They'd taken a couple steps back and had some injuries the year before, so we were trying to rebuild something. Year one, we went from 3 wins to 10 wins, and we had some injuries ourselves and had, again, the stuff every team goes through, but we're able to triple our win total in year one. I thought we were moving in the right direction. Last year went from 10 to 15, so we're the only program in the country to quintuple our win total in 2 years. I think we've been able – biggest thing for me was getting the culture right. Guys, again, who kind of fit my mindset of – you're going to go to class. You're going to work really hard in the classroom. We've had the highest GPA we've ever had in program history last spring. Each semester we've been here, we've broken our GPA record since Bryant's been Division I in men's basketball. So academically, we've had great success. And then on the floor, we've been able to bring in guys who want to build a championship program. And I think the culture is kind of building in the right direction. I think we're trending with the kind of guys, and I don't know what that means for wins and losses, but I know we have guys whose character I trust, whose toughness I trust, and guys who come in and work really hard in the classroom and on the court.
So last year, you guys had a pretty good season, 15 and 17. You guys still made the NEC. Talk about year 2.
Obviously, again, we went from 10 to 15 wins. So, in 2 years, you go from 3 to 10 to 15. So we are moving in the right direction. We lost some really close games. We very easily could have won 18 or 19 games, but there's a lot of programs in the country who can say that. And I tell guys all the time, you don't get to skip steps. Sometimes you have to go through some things. You can't skip steps in this business. And as a program, we weren't able to skip those steps. We have to learn how to finish some games out. And that's going to be a challenge for us this year. We were leading, I think, 6 games we lost in NEC play. We were leading in the second half and weren't able to close it out. So for us, it's that taking that next step of learning how to finish. And we've talked about that with something that our players are going to have to learn. It's not something you can teach and practice. It's something as a group you have to learn how to finish. And a lot of times it has to do with your leadership and it has to do with your toughness. And hopefully those ingredients will be a little stronger for us this year. But I was proud of our guys last year. Again, we had Sebastian Towns, who was a returning all-league player, missed the whole season with a knee injury. Charles Pride, who was a starter for us, missed a month and a half with a knee and ankle injury. So we had got Hole Lysius, missed 5 games with a shoulder and ankle injury. So we were kind of trying to reinvent ourselves multiple times because of injuries. Where at this level, 1 or 2 injuries can really set you back. And it had for us, but there's no excuses. We had to find a way, and it was going to be next man up. It's going to be the same thing this year. The guys who are healthy and the guys who are ready to play are the guys who are going to play, and we'll play our style and our culture, and hopefully for us, we'll be able to take the next step.
So this, you have the returning NEC Rookie of the Year, Michael Green, the Mount St. Michael graduate. How much does he do, at the one spot for the team?
I love Mike. He wasn't being heavily recruited coming out of high school. Tommy Ferreira, who's a good friend of mine, is like, you got to come down and see my point guard. Went to an open gym, watched him play for an hour. I said, he's got a scholarship offer from us. I love that kid. Went back to see him the next 2 weeks. He came up for a visit, committed on his visit. And he's a kid who just continues to get better. I mean, by the end of the season last year, I think he was as good as any point guard in the league. He kind of put us on his back down the stretch. Ended up taking over the starting point guard position and was playing 30-plus minutes a game, probably the last 10 games of the year. came back this year stronger, shooting the ball better from three, has built his body up, and just has a confidence and a swagger. That jump from freshman to sophomore year, whereas a freshman, you don't know what to expect. Now he's a sophomore with a high level of confidence, and I've given him and Charles Pride a lot of leadership as sophomores because they've been with us for a year. I trust those guys. They know what the program's about. They're workers. They're great kids. They do everything the right way on and off the floor. So those are two guys we're going to build around. And Mike's a kid whose swagger is contagious for our guys and just has a high level of confidence, and people are scared away by his size. I think he's just a hooper who goes out and he's not afraid of anything. He's your typical New York City point guard who's fearless.
So you also have another guard that's coming in. That's a New Yorker, Chris Childs. Talk about what he'll bring to Bryant this year.
Chris is an elite shooter. Coming out of high school, didn't have a ton of recruitment out of prep school, went to St. Joe's in Connecticut to play for Jim Calhoun, made over 100 3-pointers, shot 49% from three, averaged 19 points a game, decided he wanted to go to junior college and get re-recruited because he still had the dream of being a Division I player. Went to Indian Hills Community College, made over 100 threes, shot 45% from three, was a second-team All-American, was Player of the Year in the region over Tyon Grant Foster, who was going to Kansas. He's an elite shooter, deep range, quick trigger, can score the ball, can play some point in a pinch, but just a guy who has a knack for scoring the ball and can really shoot the ball, and he's got a good motor. He plays hard, he competes, so he's a guy who I think has a chance to come in and have a real impact for us.
Now, you also have Peter Kiss from Rutgers, Mello Eggleston from Arkansas State, Louis Hurtado Jr., Luke Sutherland. Talk about what they'll bring to the team as well.
I think all four of those guys are going to have a chance to have an impact for us immediately this year. Peter's a kid I've known a long time, big 6'5" guard, can score the ball all three levels, tough, physical, competitive. He's a grown man and plays like a grown man. Mello was a top 100 kid in the country coming out of high school, went to Wake Forest, averaged 8 and 5 at Arkansas State last year, starting for them. 6'8", big guard, can play some four, can put the ball on the floor, can rebound, and can defend. He's versatile, and he's just 6'8", long, athletic, really good passer, just has a lot of tools that can help us. Luis Hurtado at UAB, another kid, was a top 150 kid in the country coming out of high school. Great basketball IQ, 6'6" point guard, great vision, really knows how to play, can make open shots, and a kid who plays with a smile on his face and a passion that's kind of contagious to our guys. And Luke Sutherland from Siena, great motor, just a blue collar, punches the clock every day. You know what you're going to get from him. Sneaky athlete, can step out and make a three, can score from mid-range. So those four guys are older guys, experienced, played higher level programs, and I think are all guys who have come in just wanting to win. All they've talked about is we're coming here, we want to win a championship, we want to do something special. So they're my kind of guys who I think have come here with the common goal of trying to build a championship program.
Now, what's a regular game day like at the Chase Center?
For us, we'll have a morning or mid-afternoon shoot around. Our guys will be in the gym about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before game time. And, we've been blessed the last couple of years to have great crowds. We started a buzz about our program. Our opener last year against Brown was sold out. We've had some phenomenal crowds here, which I think is the reason we've had success on our home court. And unfortunately, early this year, it doesn't sound like we'll have fans to start the season. We've been able to really build a great home court advantage because of our fans, and something hopefully we'll be able to carry over moving forward when we are allowed to have fans in attendance again.
So you guys are one of 4 Division I programs in the state of Rhode Island. Between you guys, Brown, Rhode Island, and Providence, how does it feel, playing those other teams in bigger conferences?
Yeah, those are guys we'd like to play every year. Last year we played Brown. It was a battle. We had a 3 to win it at the buzzer. In and out, offensive rebound. We got fouled, went to the foul line, 2-point game, missed the front end, ended up losing by 2 in a great game. We opened up at URI 2 years ago. We'd obviously love to play Providence. So we would have played Brown this year had they not canceled their non-league portion of the schedule. So those are teams we're going to look to play every year. We've talked to URI about hopefully maybe starting a home-and-home series start next year, and we'd love to go to Providence and play. For us, they're local games, and Rhode Island is a basketball state, and people love basketball here. So for us, we'd love to play those teams every year.
Now, speaking of Rhode Island, like, how's the basketball community out there embrace you?
Again, thankfully, we've been we started with our basketball camp our first year when we got here, been able to build our camp up. We weren't able to run it this summer, but great turnout for our basketball camp, which has led to the local community, AAU, CYO programs coming to our games. So I think we're starting to build a culture where people want to come see us play and starting to see us have success and the great game day experience they have here. So I think people have embraced us, and, the more success you have, the more people will embrace. So for us, we're just going to try and keep building this thing and do everything we can in the community, going to the schools, being involved with all the youth programs and CYO programs, and doing everything we can to give back to them and have them be a part of our program here.
So with little Jared Anthony.
He's doing great. He's in preschool now. He's got his hoop at home, working on his game. He'll still be in every press conference with me. That's my guy. Jared
That's my guy.
Just had a baby girl, Marquesa, about a month ago. So
congrats.
I appreciate it. We're blessed. So
it's 3 of them now?
We got 3 of them now. So we're playing zone defense now, but we're blessed. Jared's a beautiful, sweet young man.
Yes,
Cole is the little rugrat running around trying to find his way. He's the tough guy. And then a little Princess Marquesa we had a month ago. So we're blessed. Beautiful family. My wife is doing well and loves it here in Rhode Island. So we couldn't be happier.
That's wonderful. So as far as games, will there ever be a chance of you guys playing Iona?
Yeah, we tried to this year. We talked to them about multiple dates and trying to make something work. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it on their end. But me, I love getting back to New York. I am a New Yorker. Last year we were blessed enough to go back to Fordham and we're able to get a win at Fordham. We'd like to get to back to New York as often as we can. Next year we'll play at Stony Brook next year. Would love to talk to Iona and Hofstra about playing. We want to get back to New York. I have a ton of friends and family there, and we recruit that area and region quite a bit. So for me, I want to get back to New York every year if I can.
Now, there's one less team in the NEC now. Robert Morris is gone. Like, how do you think that affects the conference?
The league is still very good, as you know. I mean, great coaches, great parity. So, you lose a good team and a great coach in Andy Toole, but we added Mary Mack the year before, comes in, and Joey Gallo did a phenomenal job and won a championship in his first year. So league's really good. There's really good coaches and really good players. There's always going to be a ton of parity, and every night's going to be a battle. I don't care who you're playing, where you're playing, what their record is. Our league, like the MAAC, every night you're in for a war and in for a battle. And I think that's what's great about the NEC. On any given night, if you're not ready to play, someone can come in and beat you. So you have to be prepared all 18 games. And I think this year will be the same. I don't think there's huge parity from top to bottom. And there's no game you're showing up and saying that's a win. You're going to have to really fight and compete to find a way to win every night.
I mean, Robert Morris, from what I remember, they were always a tough team to beat. But now I feel like this is good for the rest of the league because it's going to make it even more competitive now.
Yeah, again, I think there's great parity in the league. Even last year, Robert Morris ended up winning it. St. Francis Brooklyn had them on the ropes in the first round of the conference tournament. Every game is a battle. It really is, and it's what makes this league great. You go into the conference tournament, and anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And so I think it's what makes college basketball such an exciting thing. It's what makes our league such an exciting thing, and that's why we love the fact that we need to play our best basketball in February and March. And if the team who's playing the best basketball in March is usually the team who makes that run and ends up winning that tournament. And there's no better feeling than cutting down nets and being part of a pile and selection Sunday. It's something that I talk to our guys about, but outside of the birth of my children and maybe my wedding day, there's been no better experiences in my life than winning championships and having the opportunity to go to NCAA tournaments.
Now, this is one of the questions that I love to ask before I lead up to the final question. If you could go back to 2002, what would you tell 22-year-old Jared as he's graduating from Quinnipiac and going into coaching?
Just there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in this business, and be prepared for them. And you just kind of have to stay the course and keep working and keep your nose to the ground. And, there's daily battles and daily adversities that you're going to go through. But the biggest thing is keep your nose to the ground, treat people right, work your tail off and good things will happen. And the biggest one is treat people right. Take care of people, do right by people, and it's always going to come back to you. And keep your nose clean, work hard, and make sure people, and again, I always go back to the relationship piece, but keep building relationships and treating people right. And the more you do that, the more you build relationships, the more people you have in your corner, the better your career is going to be.
Final question. What's next in the future for Jared Grasso and the Bryant Bulldogs?
In about 20 minutes, we're going to be back down on the floor for another practice, which excites me. I love being on the court with our guys and love having the opportunity to get better. And for us, we're taking it day by day right now. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything going on, it's you don't know what the future is going to hold. So right now for us, we're about day to day, get better day to day. And I've talked to them about doing it with joy. We want to be the hardest working team in the country, but we want to have fun doing it. We want to do it with a smile on our face. We want to enjoy this. This isn't something we take for granted. The game of basketball and being able to get into a gym and those things were taken away from many of us for many months, several months this summer. Yeah. And for me, and something I preach to our guys is don't take this for granted. Let's go down there and let's have a lot of fun doing this because we all love basketball. So let's go down there. Let's work really hard, but let's do it with joy every day because this isn't something that we can take for granted anymore. And hopefully this stuff helped us realize that. So for me, it's about having great days every day, working really hard every day, but really doing it with joy and with passion.
Jared, thank you for coming on to share your story. And I wish you and the Bulldogs nothing but the best moving forward.
Dave, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you do. You're one of the best out there. We've had a relationship for a long time and just want you to know I appreciate everything you do and everything you do for the community. It's great seeing you grow and what you've matured into and all the things you're doing. Proud of you and really thanks for having me because you're someone that I've really loved building a relationship with.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, this is episode 83 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to Jared on everything that he's doing over at Bryant University. For those from Long Island, Syosset, Iona College, Quinnipiac, and everybody out there in the Providence, Rhode Island area, go support Coach Grasso and check out this interview on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Peace.